Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the channel. In case you're new here, I am Doodleman149 and I'll be your host today. I'll be looking at the server stress test for XDefiant that occurred last weekend. I had a first impressions video out last Sunday, which is linked both in the top right of your screen and in the description, but this video will be a deeper dive into my feelings regarding the state of the game and how it feels in general, as well as my opinions on its chances of success. Let's hop into this. The gameplay. The first thing I'll look at is the general gameplay. At its core, XDefiant is a hero shooter. It's an FPS title with different factions that each have different abilities to bring into play. For example, the Phantoms faction is focused on defensive shields, while Libertad is focused on healing. TTK ranges from extremely fast to painfully slow. The game is more about positioning and gunplay more than mobility, despite movement being quicker than average for a game like this. All in all, if you think of the phrase first-person shooter, this is the most basic version of that thought. Guns are customizable, shooting is alright, and deaths are fast and frequent. It doesn't do anything drastic to shake up the formula, and while some people can see that as a positive, for me, it doesn't justify its own existence on this front. The Netcode. Next, we'll look at the netcode. While I'm not exactly very well versed on how servers work and how things work on the technical end of it, as a gamer, I could tell you when something behind the scenes is fucking up. Numerous times I get killed well behind a corner, and I do the same to enemies at times too. Now, this isn't for thin cover that bullets could potentially go through, this is solid, impenetrable cover. Come to think of it, I'm not even sure there is bullet penetration. I think it's just bullets passing through objects that they shouldn't be able to. On top of that, in straight up firefights, there's times I'll be shooting an enemy and either not get hit markers, or when I do and lose, the enemy hasn't lost any health. Add to that the fact that shooting vibration cuts in and out at random, and you'll have less than a pleasant experience on this FPS title on a technical level. If they delayed the game for this long to fix things and this is how well it runs, I'm wondering what they were actually spending their money and time on. The maps. Next, we'll look at the maps, and we'll also be seeing my first legitimate praise for this game. Every map I played Domination on was small. None of them were particularly large or complex, and that lends itself well to the instant respawns of the game mode. Now, with that praise out of the way, let's look at why the maps are also ass. They're all basically the same. Some maps have some variety in verticality, meaning a single floor with the same floor plan as the one above it, but they're all the same on a fundamental level. They're all simple 3-lane maps with very little deviation in those lanes and no power positions to speak of. There's nothing to fight for outside of the occasionally poorly placed objectives, and the maps themselves are too simple. In addition to the simplicity of layout, there's also simplicity in interaction, as in there is none of it. There's no doors to open or close, burst through, no environmental hazards or destruction, not even cosmetically, and there's nothing to discover. The simplicity of the maps is both a benefit for some game modes for size, while also being the most boring and generic layouts I've come across in a long time. I think only Shipment is more basic than these maps. The graphics. Let's take a look at the graphics now, and I know your eyes are going to regret it. They are hideous. Looking at the environments and character models, they look last gen. Hell, Halo 2 looks better from the 360 in some areas. Even the weapon models are muddy and seem to lack definition. I don't know anything about the Snowdrop engine, but graphically, it's from a bygone era. The thing is, it doesn't even seem intentionally off like Deep Rock Galactic or Borderlands. Those games have a definitive art style that suits them. XDefiant is just ugly as sin. Innovations. So, where does XDefiant innovate? Where does it separate itself from the pack and really make a name for itself? Well, to put it bluntly, it doesn't. It's derivative in literally every sense of the word, but I'll give some concrete examples. Strict gunplay and movement style, it is copy and paste Black Ops 3. Not a single weapon is unique or interesting. Customization is basically a watered down gunsmith from Modern Warfare 2019. The abilities are all things we've seen before, from deployable cover, medpacks, proximity sensors, etc. Nothing on offer here is unique. Maps scream old COD, but not in a good way. I've already mentioned why they suck earlier. The only thing that's unique is that all the factions are from other Ubisoft titles, but none of them are iconic characters. Imitation may be the sincerest form of flattery, but when it's done in such a blatantly derivative and subpar quality as this, it comes off more as an insult. Longevity. So what are my thoughts on the longevity of this game? Well, if it releases like this, even with all the bugs and the hit reg fixed, this game is boring from the get-go. Sure, there will be attachments to grind, granted attachments that are exactly the same across all weapons, but that's also kind of a self-defeating cycle. You'll have to play the generic shooter to unlock attachments to make the generic shooter more bearable. And I have a feeling, given that it's a free-to-play game, that the content they'll add down the road will most likely be just cosmetics. I am not anticipating any new maps, any quality adjustments to the gunplay, new factions, or new weapons to come from copy-paste the studio, otherwise known as Ubisoft. As it stands, and despite how cliched this sounds, this game feels like it'll be dead on arrival. I heard some people on my teams during the server test talk about how stellar the game was, and I could only assume they haven't played any shooter from the past 6 years. Some may have fun with it, but that novelty wears off as it does with everything new. When that time comes, what will they be left with? Just the trite derivative trash that XDefiant is turning out to be. So, while I'm well aware no one is still watching at this point, cause the only people who watched in the first place were here in hopes that I'd be on my knees with them trying to make their Ubisoft Ubi hard, but that's not the case. It's fitting that Ubisoft made this game because as it stands, it's a flaccid facsimile of many other titles. While it is free, the time you'd be throwing away with this game is not worth what you're getting out of it. Take my advice and skip this one while it releases. That is, unless it's drastically better than now, but I highly doubt it. Hopefully you enjoyed my scathing critique of the latest COD killer. I wonder, do you agree or disagree with my points? Feel free to comment insightful things like skill issue or you're just bad, because those are definite critiques of my analysis of a fundamentally flawed game. I hope you've had a great day, and I hope your upcoming week goes great as well. I've been Doodleman149, and until next time, I will see you later.